Hello, welcome to the AP7 podcast. You are here with Rachel Donovan and the founder of AP7, Mr. George Helou.
Thanks, Rachel, and thank you for joining us. We love talking about how to get the heart into everything we do to get a lot out of life.
Whether it be relationships, business, careers, you name it. So, let's get started. So our last podcast that we did was a fantastic one about looking into worldviews and becoming really aware of what our own worldview was and how that impacts our decisions and our life, our happiness. And so we decided that to discuss it a little bit further, we would look at in relationships or with having a partner, looking at what their worldview is and investigating whether we are the same, whether we have the same worldview or where the differences lie and how this impacts everything.
Yeah.
Our choice. Yeah.
It's big. And I don't think...
But how cool to be thinking about it in that way.
Yeah, I really like it. I like the idea that we could be skilled at getting to know someone and having an ability to go into their mind and see the world through their eyes. What a great skill. Because if you are freaked out by the way they see the world and it either impresses you or it disturbs you, either way, you're going to know whether that person can be a life partner or not. Rachel, do you think that we kind of do it a little bit? Like we do it in an ad hoc way. Like when you meet someone, you're kind of sussing out what they're like because that forms part of that worldview, doesn't it?
Yes, it would. So I guess what I was thinking was when we first get to know someone, often we and, well, the other person as well is putting their best foot forward. So we perhaps aren't really seeing an authentic worldview because it's what they want us to see.
Yeah, often actions expose the inconsistencies. So while someone initially can hold their energy and create some consistency in actions because they want to impress you, they want to woo you, at some point that starts to fall apart. So I think it's a very good point, Rachel, that make room for that. So in other words, when you're meeting someone, you're getting to know what they're about. It's the consistency of them being that way that will determine that that's their true worldview, which means what they tell you at the beginning doesn't mean it's their worldview. It probably could be what they want their worldview to be, what they think you want their worldview to be. But it may be a journey that, yeah, they're willing to learn and grow and make that their worldview. But what is their existing worldview?
Yes, that's the big question.
Yeah, because if their existing worldview through how they feel and they react when they're under pressure, see, that's the point. When we're under pressure, our real beliefs through our subconscious are going to make us see the world in that way and we're going to react in that way. So if you can handle someone being imperfect and having a journey, in other words, hint, hint, all of us. So we got to get real. We're not looking for Mr. Perfect Worldview here or Mrs. Worldview. We're looking for someone who has a worldview that includes they don't know it all. They have to stay open-minded and be humble and keep learning. They know that partners are imperfect and it's always a work in progress. I guess, am I now almost like being superimposing my own value system on the worldview that one partner should look for? Because I'm just starting to rant on what I would value. But what do you think, Rachel, about those things that I was just talking about? Because isn't that what we all want?
Possibly. I wouldn't say everyone.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe we do have different views of things that we want. So that's why it's important we find out.
Yeah, but like, why wouldn't you want a partner that allows you to have bad days? And why would you want a partner who wants to be a know-it-all all the time and hates being wrong, never apologizes, and therefore you never feel like you are making a difference with your points of view to them, because they're always like feeling they should have already arrived, and even if what you've said to them they agree with, they want to make out they were always there already. Now, you know what's interesting? If you're insecure and you want to feel safe and you want a leader as a partner that apparently has got it all together, I reckon that kind of a partner would work for you, because you're happy to be in the shadow. You're happy to be the person that looks to them and they be the shining star all the time. And they're happy to pretend they're the shining star too. In other words, even when they're wrong, they'll quickly find a way to be right for you and them, because that's their comfort zone. Do you see that in some relationships?
Yeah. I think you can see in some relationships, they're playing roles, or people complement each other with being opposite in that respect.
Yeah. So when two people get together and they're looking for how that person sees the world, then I guess it really is about how you see the world too. If you like the idea of having someone take the lead and being someone who's more experienced and is just a better problem solver than you, and that you're more nurturing and caring and loving in different ways, and that's a nice compliment, that could be a legitimate decision that you make, that person wants to take on that leadership. I'm going to be the problem solver, and I really want you to lean to me for making decisions overall. Even though I might get your opinion, I want you to lean on me. We definitely have that in our history of whether you call it sexist relationships or not. We do have women raised to kind of feel comfortable with a male that's dominant in the relationship.
Yeah.
And just because we're changing in our society very quickly, it doesn't mean we still have children raised to kind of model that way of relating in a relationship. Do you kind of see that?
Yeah. And I was just also thinking in terms of a worldview, if you're someone viewing it as a scary place, people are out to get you, that sort of thing, that's going to, have you be scared, aggressive, passive-aggressive. And so if you see that sign in a partner and you share the same view, would you say, get on with them?
Yeah. In other words, it's us against the world. The world is hostile. We're there for each other. And while in the scheme of things, that may not be a healthy partnership where both of you are overprotective and you hold back too much and you miss out on opportunities, sometimes I think that if one partner sees that the other one is more brave, they kind of are attracted to that because they know they need that in their life as well. Do you see that?
Yeah.
But then there's the value system of I need to feel like you're conservative enough and you're not reckless as well, because I'm an overly cautious kind of attitude. Is that right? Like, it's an interesting one. And I wonder how much of it is just happening based on little judgments, very rapid judgments on what that potential partner represents to you, and how much of your attraction to them is being shaped or encouraged by those little automatic considerations going on in the subconscious about how courageous and complimentary and safe and loving that partner is, or how much they represent giving you the life that you want. So it's funny because the worldview is influenced on how a relationship should be in a huge way.
Yeah.
How a relationship should be. And I think we're conflicted, Rachel. It's probably why we end up with partners that don't work out, because our heart wants a partner, our head won't let us have them, and we end up being attracted to people that are not really working out the way we want them to, because we haven't become clear about what we stand for and we haven't aligned ourselves properly, so that when we meet someone, we're a lot more congruent with what we stand for rather than conflicted. It's almost like, how some women, they end up with the nasty guy, the bad guy, And there's this appeal, that attraction to the bad guy. And then the nice guy doesn't get...
Yes, very common. It's so common.
Well, I've thought about this a lot, but you tell me what you think, right? In the sense that a bad guy is the adventure, is the courage, the brave, is the I don't conform to society's pressures. And that's got to be appealing. You know, that rebel in you as a woman, that's got to be appealing, that this man can take on the world. He doesn't answer to anyone. The problem is he's also probably got a big fat chip on his shoulder. And with these insecurities, that bad boy image ends up being abusive in some way. So that's the dark side of that, right? And then the nice guy who, you know, on the surface and all the Hollywood movies, it's like everybody wants to be with the nice guy, right? Except he's friggin' boring and he's weak. He's so people-pleasing that there's nothing left of him to be there for you when you need him most.
Yeah, he gets friend-zoned.
Yeah, he's not honest because he doesn't want to offend anyone. And therefore, he hasn't got a backbone. And I don't know about you, but a wobbly, gooey bloke that's just all nice and flops all over the place is not that attractive. So do you think, as a message, as a call out to all the nice guys out there, you need the balance? Be nice as in respectful and caring and compassionate and considerate and patient with people. But at the same time, don't throw yourself under a bus and neglect yourself and be afraid that you're not allowed to stand for anything because you're not allowed to offend anyone because they're just going to reject or abandon you. Don't be so nice that you're disgusting to yourself because that's not attractive and women feel it and they're not interested in you and then they're happy to have you as a friend, not as a partner. Now, we've gone on a tangent here because here we are, we're talking about worldview. But then again, it's not that much of a tangent because women are already tuning in and we should balance it shortly. But women are tuning in to, I kind of don't like the way you see the world because you have to be everything to everyone and you're so nice that I don't know whether you've got what it takes to prioritize our needs because anything and everyone that wants a piece of you, you're going to give that to them so that there's nothing left for us to build a life with. I honestly believe, Rachel, that a woman will make that decision without even being that conscious of it. She'll just feel it and be repelled by wanting to be with that person.
In the same way that she's attracted to the rebel and his strength and everything, you know, even though they're not healthy for you emotionally, there's the attraction to that brave, that confidence, that defiant energy.
Yes.
So what do we do in this situation? I'm asking for all the women out there, George.
Oh, no, eh? Well, I reckon you can have your cake and eat it too. I think that you could have a healthy conversation with a potential person that you're attracted to about their worldview. And if they've got a bit of a bad boy image, you look at where their temper or their rebellion loses a healthy cause, and then you invite them to address that with you, to want to go there and understand it with you. And if they don't, then you know you're dealing with someone that's too afraid. So yeah, they might have a bad boy image, but they're afraid. They're actually controlled by their own fears and judgments and they don't want to go there. So you're pretty much helping yourself realize this person is too welded, glued in to that worldview where they have to rebel, often in their worst state without even a cause. Because all bets are off. They're against everyone, including you, when they're at their worst. True?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, if you can't feel, experience, engage a sense of investment from that person, that they are grounded enough to not need to be a bad boy in important contexts with you in the relationship, then don't go beyond the first 1-2 dates. Don't be attracted to a bad boy that's going to be bad in all the areas that you rely on to build a future in a partnership, to have a secure, loving family. Don't do that shit.
Mm.
Now, I think we should also look at if he's too nice, invite him out of it. It's like, you know what? You're too agreeable. We should be sledging each other for fun around our weaknesses. We're taking life too seriously, like we need everyone to be happy all the time. Like, where's our edge? Where's our raw truth where things push our buttons, but we can have a light heart together so that we can actually say no to things and not feel like we've let each other down, but at the same time be balanced. It really does get back to the balance of things. If you ask him his point of view on things and he's too diplomatic, at every answer is just diplomatic. And then you've got to go deeper in that. Surely, you've got to find a place where, what does push his buttons? What does he stand for? Find what he stands for and ask him why he doesn't stand for it in situations where he should. Now, can we be fair and flip it the other way? I represented the female race from a male perspective, of knowing those dynamics. What about a woman? Like, what about us blokes? When we're dating a woman, what makes us attracted to a woman? Is it the same thing? Is it her sexy, flirtatious nature? She's on the edge. And it's like, oh, how exciting. She's going to be awesome in bed. And, that's definitely an attractive part of a woman, right? But then we know that we're afraid of committing to someone like that because are they going to be like that in front of family, kids, Or is she balanced? Does she kind of know when to put it on for the fun of the relationship? Or is it just she's too invested in being like that to get attention? Because I've experienced that. Not with my wife. Let's be very clear. My wife is very balanced, right? Phew. I just realized people go, oh, is that his wife? But no, I've experienced that growing up, in relationships and dating. And then the other side, if a woman is trying to be too sweet and nice and easygoing, it reminds me of that movie Coming to America with Eddie Murphy. This movie, Rachel, is hilarious because he's bored. He wants a woman that has a backbone, that knows what she stands for. And unfortunately, because he's a prince, all the suitors that come, they're all so amiable. They want to do everything. So eventually he gets so bored. You know what he does? A woman comes, he goes, jump up or down. So that she starts jumping. Jump on one leg. She starts jumping on one leg. Bark like a dog. She starts jumping on one leg and barks like a dog. And he goes, I don't want a relationship like that. I don't want a relationship where she's not there. Whatever I want just happens and her soul, her spirit is not there. So anyway, so he goes to America to try to find an American wife, independent, she's herself. And then he tries to figure out which state to go to and have a guess which ones it goes to. Queens. He goes to Queens to find his queen. And he goes to a rough area in Queens, right? And then that's where the whole journey starts. He's rich, he's looking for a wife, and eventually he finds someone that is definitely in touch with her morals and herself, but she's feisty and independent and has her own opinions, and that becomes very attractive, right? Now, in a partnership, it obviously works both ways. It's the same rules apply, don't they?
Yep.
So what about beyond the relationship working in terms of attraction? Yes, you want the balance of being out there in life, a bit courageous, but also conservative and not reckless because you want to build a family and you want to have a healthy relationship to finances and all sorts of things, right? But then, like, what kind of children are you going to raise? What do you want out of this life? And I think it can get very unique in that area because if you're going to marry someone that just wants a family only and they're happy with that, but you want to leave a legacy and you want to become an author or you want to kind of live a life where you can move around countries with your family and give them different experiences. These are very challenging because some people want to give their children stability and consistency, one school, the same friends, so that you can grow up having long-term friends, right? But yet the other side is the thrill of the world and adventure and making them worldly and connected and adaptive. That gets down to choice, doesn't it, Rachel?
Yes, absolutely. And, both are fine decisions, but of course it just comes down to the discussions with your partner about what you both see for yourselves and your family.
Yeah, and I honestly think that it's not right or wrong. It's just what you value, what you want.
Yeah.
And maybe if you're discovering the values of that person on a bit of an extreme of one side and then the other one's a bit on the other, maybe deep down in our hearts, we actually do want both. And that maybe we create something that we both can have.
What do you mean?
Well, say you meet someone that is out there and they want to see the world and they want to create stuff, but then they love the homely values of their partner who wants stability and they kind of want both.
Mm.
Well, why couldn't you create a balance of both?
I think that would be lovely and, ideal.
And so maybe it's phases. Maybe you're more adventurous when you're together before you have children and you decide to really turn that up. And then you decide to prioritize careers for a little bit, or you agree one of them will because the other one's kind of ready for children or to start having the babies. And it's just almost like just being clear about how you see the world and a life partner in it, and then getting clear and then making those decisions up front. But I know that you couldn't just launch into these conversations when you first meet because it's pretty much scary and overkill. In other words, you're going into the intricacies of how we see ourselves and our fellow human beings, like how much respect there is in the way we treat a waiter because they should be equal to us. Just because they're choosing to have that role doesn't make them less than us. But yet, if you catch someone being condescending to a waiter, I can see what you mean by that. Like, it kind of makes you think, really, is this the kind of partner I want for our children to be raised with that sort of attitude?
Yeah.
But what would you do in that situation if it happened? Would you want to have the conversation and check in on whether they're conflicted themselves with being that way?
Yeah, I think so. Perhaps bringing it up in a lighthearted way.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That would be a tricky one because it's probably a very touchy subject about, do you feel you're above other people? I don't know. I guess you could say it in a lighthearted way.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's a tricky one. You know what it tells me? That at some point you really have to back your intuition and go, is this person too ingrained and heavily invested in seeing life and the world and people this way, that even if I brought it up in conversation to see whether they want to hold on to that way of being, I'm kind of feeling like it's the probability stacked against them changing or wanting to change and actually changing. Because it's one thing to invite someone to adapt and evolve and grow with you, which I think has to always be there, right? But it's another thing to be real, to be realistic and try to gauge early on whether there are too many things that push that person into seeing the world so differently that you're kidding yourself thinking that you have a life partner potential when you're literally in two different worlds.
Yeah.
So I guess it's really your own judgment call on how much intersection there is in the worldview. If there's enough intersection, shared values and shared beliefs that you kind of can feel it, you see it, then you want to invest in it. Make room for the differences that they're manageable and they're worth accepting. And some of it could be a work in progress. Some of it doesn't have to be the same. And that's just celebrating the uniqueness in someone, their own difference.
Yeah, because that's bound to happen. You'd never be 100% on everything.
No. So by thinking to yourself, how does this person see the world? And then beginning to explore and explore, then suddenly, hopefully, you're being a lot more informed than just going on what you normally do while you're getting to know someone.
Yeah, this could be a to be continued. I can see so many areas and where this conversation can move to.
Well, as our ideas come out on it, we will definitely add more, and it might end up being a special series, a spin-off series. You know what you made me realize? That because the details of your worldview can be so material in every area of your life, like parenting alone would have to be a massive one, because how you raise your child would have to be one of the most important, most sensitive things to you. And that you definitely want to know that the parent that you're sharing those children with is sharing enough of those core values.
Yeah.
And then even intimacy, the word itself tells you that you're inviting someone into the closeness that is all about trust and vulnerability. And you definitely want to be clear about how they view what intimacy means. See, it's already starting to open up all these different areas that would be worth exploring. Cool. Well, shall we leave it at that?
Yeah, for today.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining us on an AP7 podcast. We've loved having you with us for this conversation, and we would look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on another AP7 podcast. If you liked what you heard, remember to share and subscribe so you're notified of every podcast released. If you have any questions or would like to connect with us, please jump on the AP7 official Facebook page. We'd love to hear from you.